Hello and welcome. I am Julia, and today we are talking about a powerful skill that you must master if you want to succeed on GMAT Critical Reasoning questions. This is the skill of knowing the difference between following the logic of a passage step by step and spinning stories that sound related or smart but aren't supported by the passage. Let's start with a common trap. You read a critical reasoning passage, and when you get to the answer choices, one of them reminds you of something that seems to be true. Perhaps it is related in the real world, or things typically go that way, or it just feels like it would follow. It seems possible. You could easily imagine a scenario when that answer choice might make sense. So you pick it, and it's wrong. Why? Because you weren't following the logic of the passage. You were spinning a story. I'm going to illustrate this with a TTP inference question, as that's the question type where the difference is most clear. Research has shown that engaging in conversation while driving requires that a driver engage in two cognitive processes simultaneously, and thus that drivers talking on cell phones are not as focused on handling challenging moments in driving as are drivers who are not engaging in conversations. Research has also shown that when a passenger in a car is conversing with the driver of the car, it is generally the case that the driver and passenger will take breaks from conversing when the driver most needs to concentrate on driving. If the statements above are true, which of the following can be properly inferred from them? Let's look at a breakdown of what we know. So, engaging in conversations while driving requires that a driver engage in two cognitive processes at the same time. Drivers talking on cell phones are less focused on handling challenging moments in driving relative to drivers who are not engaging in conversation, and generally, a driver and a passenger will take breaks from conversing when the driver most needs to concentrate on driving. What can be fully inferred given this information? A. Drivers who have passengers in their cars are less likely to engage in cell phone conversations than are drivers without passengers in their cars. That choice is completely unsupported. Nothing in the argument supports that. As well as D, if a driver conversing on a cell phone while driving were to stop conversing in order to handle a challenging driving situation, the other person conversing might hang up. Also completely not supported by the argument. E is a bit more tempting. Driving while talking on a cell phone is comparable in dangerousness to driving while intoxicated, but that's bringing in new information that the argument doesn't support as well, even though it feels a bit more closely related. Let's look at B and C. B, it is generally the case that drivers who converse with passengers in their cars are more focused on handling challenging moments in driving than are drivers talking on cell phones. This must be true because we know that drivers on cell phones are less focused than non-conversing drivers. We know drivers with passengers stop conversing during challenges, so we know that during challenges, drivers with passengers aren't conversing and are more focused than drivers who are conversing on cell phones. C, the driving of drivers who have extensive practice in handling multiple tasks simultaneously is not affected by those drivers conversing on cell phones. This adds a bit of information that is not in the premises. Just like choice E, though it is even more tempting as a trap. Nothing in the passage discusses drivers with extensive practice or how practice affects concentration ability. Remember, in critical reasoning inference questions, the correct answer requires full support, not just possibility or probable support. If a statement could be true sometimes, but not 100% of the time. It is not a supported inference. So our best answer is B. Let's recap. Understanding the implications of answers, that is what we are trying to do. And it looks like an implication is firmly supported without being explicitly said. That is the basis of an implication. An implication follows directly and logically from the information provided, no extra steps. No additional assumptions are required, nor logical leaps necessary for an implication. And the connection between the premises and conclusion is tight, and every step is accounted for. So that is something that gets a bit easier with practice, but some of these gaps are very hard to spot, especially if you're new, because they're so innocuous. They don't seem like a big deal until it's pointed out that there has been an extra leap. When spinning unsupported stories, which is what we would like to avoid, the conclusion could be true, but is not guaranteed. This comes up a lot in critical reasoning because a lot of the conclusions could be true, but are not guaranteed, and we are supposed to point out where the author is spinning unsupported stories in many cases. The story requires adding information not present in the original premises, such as assumptions. The story relies on assumptions beyond what the argument stated, and the conclusion requires connecting dots that aren't firmly connected in the passage. Inferences are very precise thinking. The more you practice identifying tight logical connections, the easier it will be to spot and avoid tempting but wrong answers that require you spinning a story to justify them. Now, inference questions are not one of the most common types of CR questions that come up on the GMAT, but they do come up sometimes. And more importantly, the lessons that you learn from practicing them are very often helpful in developing logical skills. Learning the exact line between a supported story and a slightly unsupported story will keep you from choosing trap answers time after time. This is one reason to get everything you can out of practice questions. Every practice question you attempt has potentially got a lot to offer you, even if the question itself isn't that hard. So use these questions to maximize the direct and indirect benefits. That is it for today. Remember that these skills can be difficult to develop, especially if you haven't studied in a while, but the ability to think critically and understand the logic behind passages will enhance your life in school, in work, and beyond. See you next time.